Josh, are we streaming? Are we streaming? We are. That's good news. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I am here just for a second to say hello, welcome. We're glad you're here. Look at the sunshine behind me. We are so lucky, even though there's snow on the ground. I am here just to share that we are experiencing some challenges with our internet this morning. It is sporadic, so it's in and out, but we're doing our very best behind the scenes to make sure this service is flowing out into the universe so it can be shared widely and broadly. And it is being recorded, so nothing will be missed today. So we're going to have a great morning together. If you see us kind of working in the background, we're trying to keep the internet up for another hour, 2 hours, for the whole afternoon. So have a great service. It's going to be a good day today. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Hamilton.
Thank you.
Back through the years, I've been wandering once again, back to the seasons of my youth. I recall a box of rags someone gave us, and how my mama put those rags to use. There were rags of many colors, but all of them were small. I didn't have a coat. It was getting down in fall. Mama sewed the piece together, sewing every stitch with love. She made my coat of many colors that I was so proud of. As she sewed, she told the story from the Bible she had read about a coat of many colors Joseph wore. Then she said, perhaps this coat will bring you good luck and happiness. I couldn't wait to wear it. Mama blessed it with a kiss. My coat of many colors my mama made for me, made only from rags, but I wore it so proudly. We didn't have no money, but I was rich as I could be, in my coat of many colors my mama made for me. With patches on my breeches, holes in both my shoes, my coat of many colors, I hurried off to school, just to find the others laughing and making fun of me. My coat of many colors my mama made for me. I just couldn't understand it, 'cause I thought I was rich. I told them of the love my mama sewed in every stitch. I told them all the story mama told me while I sewed. My coat of many colors my mama made for me. They didn't understand it. I tried to make them see. They only poor if one chooses to be. I knew we had no money, but I was rich as I could be. My coat of many colors my mama made for me. She made just for me.
Thank you. You're more than good enough. Good morning, everyone. I can't quite say it the way that Reverend Jamie does, but I'm feeling it. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Hamilton. May we have spring weather soon. The online folks are muted, and I would ask the people here to do the same. Please ensure that your devices are turned off. We welcome you today, whatever the circumstances of your life. In the many ways we identify as people, and in the diversity of how we love and live. In this house of faith, we are all included as we search for the truth, build community, and strive to make the world a better place for all. Our mission is to nurture each other, serve the community, and inspire action that heals the world. My name is Doreen Noel. My pronouns are she, her, and I am this morning's service leader. I want to thank today's service team, which includes Mary Ellen Scanlon, our speaker, myself as service leader, Rachel Derry, Norm Ayers, and Ian Challenger as our music ministers, pardon me, for Story for All Ages religious educator, Tim Versteeg, tech team, Chase Tapley, Josh McIntyre, John Elliott, and Claire Miles. We have a team. Ushers, Elizabeth Beckett and Karen Moore, and worship associates, Eden Johnson and Susan Johnston. Stone? Yeah. First, to ensure that the announcements about the life of our church and community are heard by everyone, we now do these at the beginning of the service. And we do have a few announcements. That's not an announcement. There is, after this service, a social justice circle meeting. Are you interested in social justice, but are not sure how to get involved? Are you wondering what is happening with the focus areas, affordable housing, gender and social justice, Eva Rothwell Center, and climate action? A circle meeting will take place after the service here in the sanctuary. All ages are welcome and are welcome to attend. Let us know what will make this event, accessible for you. Please stay. If you are online, there will be every effort made to continue to make it accessible to you as well. And Kelly Wolf will be leading the circle meeting. A reminder about our annual general meeting, which is next Sunday, March 26th. Come share pizza and hear about our work in 2022. Earlier this month, congregants were emailed the AGM package with the nominating report and the agenda for our annual meeting. You also received the finalized financial statements and the annual reports. We have had a busy, exciting year, and we welcome you to come and celebrate with us. You will have an opportunity to contribute to the list of important events during the year. The meeting will start after a shortened service, and we welcome all congregants, but only those who have been members since this February 15th are eligible to vote. Those of you who will be attending online will receive a link by email the morning of the 26th. We welcome you to join the discussion on Vimeo and to vote on the motions via Zoom. Third, the AV Tech training course from the ground up. A reminder that this course will be held in the sanctuary on the mornings of April 1st, 8th, 15th, and 29th from 9 till 12. There is a change in date there. I'm not sure quite which one. Participants, the only requirement is that you are age 15 or older, and no experience is necessary for sound. But those who wish to advance on to lead sound tech positions will need to have good hearing, and a willingness to invest in volunteer hours. No experience is necessary for VMix, but adequate, I just said that. I'm sorry. Assistants will need to be physically able to handle getting up and down from their knees. Some of us, that just disqualifies us totally. More information on this course can be found in the weekly all-church email, or if you perhaps ask someone from the AV team. One final quick notice. Remember that next Sunday is the food drive Sunday for the Eva Rothwell Center, along with CYRE. So if you remember to bring your donations. Thank you. Okay. Land acknowledgement. We live uninvited upon the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas, on land that is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant between the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and our ancestors to share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. We know the truth about the impact that colonization has had on the first peoples of this land and on the native habitat, resources, flora, and fauna. Therefore, as we deepen our practice of truth, reconciliation, and healing, we ask ourselves, how can we work towards a just and equitable future for all beings living on the land, in the waters and skies of the Great Lake area? Our chalices represent the light of hope at the center of our faith tradition. The spark of this flame draws us into our time of worship and community. Oh, there you are, perfect. Okay. As Marilyn, there it is. As Mary Ellen lights the chalices, please join me in our chalice lighting words. May this flame be our light of friendship and love. Thank you. Our theme for March is the common good, and the service today is shared between the Eva Rothwell Center focus and the climate action focus of social justice. The Eva Rothwell Center was originally chosen 6 years ago as one of the 3 focus areas out of over 100 choices, if many of you I'm sure will remember as we went through that process. Because their mission, vision, and values align with ours. Their vision is working today to create a better tomorrow. Their mission to provide a stable and supportive environment that enables personal development through partnerships and programming. And their values, we are accessible and inclusive. We are partners and collaborators. We provide leadership and guidance. We are accountable and transparent. And the clothing room and the Eva Rothwell Center is our church's opportunity for hands-on social action. Saving the babies, as they say, from the river. Climate action has organic roots in our congregation and so clearly needed to be a social justice focus that last year at our annual general meeting, it was officially confirmed by a congregational vote as a 4th social justice focus area. And yes, they overlap, particularly in recognizing and working towards the solutions for the social injustices and pollution created by fast fashion. Our opening hymn is number 207 in our gray hymnal. Earth was given as a garden.
Earth was given as a garden, cradle for humanity, tree of life and tree of knowledge, place for our discovery. Here was home for all creatures born of land and sky and sea, all created in your image, all to live in harmony. Show to us again in the garden where all life flows fresh and free. Gently guide your sons and daughters into full maturity. Teach us how to trust each other, how to make their good our power. Holy Mother, life bestowing, bid our waste and warfare cease. Fill us all with grace o'erflowing. Teach us how to live in peace.
Good morning. My name is Tim Versteeg, and it is my great pleasure to be the religious educator for the First Unitarian Church of Hamilton. My pronouns are he, him. Today in CYRE, we are aided by our volunteer Audrey Johnman and our youth ambassador Nicola O'Shea, and we will be playing some games because it's the end of March break. And that's what we're going to be doing. Today's story for all ages. Oh, forgot my clicker. Today's story for all ages is called Nanabush and the Spirit of Winter, and it is retold and illustrated by Daphne Ojig-Bevan, who was born on the Wikwemikong Reserve on Manitoulin Island. And this is quite an old story, so you'll notice from the pictures that it might seem a little old-timey, but it's a good one. This country was not always warm in the summer. At one time, many years ago, all the land was covered with ice and snow. Cold, icy winds blew all day and night. There were many indigenous people living here, and they kept themselves warm by making clothing out of animal skins. One day, Nanabush, the spirit, asked for a meeting with the chief and leaders of the tribe. "Why is our country so terribly cold?" Nanabush asked. "We do not know," they replied. "All we do know is that the wind and cold always seem to be coming from the north." "There must be a reason for it," said Nanabush. "Who will come north with me to try and find out who sends us all the cold?" "We dare not interfere," replied the chief and leaders. "Some evil spirit must be making our country cold. If we go, he will be even more angry with us." "I am not afraid," said Nanabush. "I will travel north and find out what is going on." "May the Great Spirit protect you. Take care," said the chief. So Nanabush started gathering things together for a long journey. He gathered up herbs, wild rice, and strips of dried meat. He loved to have plenty to eat. especially when he was traveling. Don't we all? Nanabush walked for many days. The wind became stronger and colder, stinging his face as he kept on. Drifts of snow piled up in front of him and made it difficult for him to walk. He was forced to stop at times to rest, but not for very long. He knew he might freeze to death if he went to sleep. After days of travel, he saw a huge creature covered from head to toe with frost and icicles. Cold, icy winds poured out of his mouth and nose. Nanabush found it difficult to stay on his feet. Now, Nanabush was very brave, but he had never before come up against such a powerful creature. I must not let him know I'm afraid, thought Nanabush. Who are you? He asked. I am the spirit of winter, replied the giant. Who are you that dares to invade my land? I am Nanabush, the spirit. Listen, for I have much to say to you. I will listen to what you have to say because you seem to be brave, but don't try any tricks, replied the spirit of winter. Why do you make this land so cold? Asked Nanabush. Why don't you go to sleep once in a while and let the land warm up? That's really none of your business, said the spirit. Why shouldn't the land be cold? Because there's indigenous people who live just south of here. Your snorting and blowing is making life hard for them. Ha ha, roared the spirit of winter. Why should I care about your people? I enjoy making cold weather. Now, Nanabush realized he would have to trick the spirit of winter. Let's be friends, said Nanabush. What do you have to eat? I'm hungry. I eat ice and snow, grumbled the spirit of winter. Help yourself, there's lots of it. No thanks, replied Nanabush. Ice and snow may taste good to you, but I like rice, herbs, and meat. Do rice, herbs, and meat taste good? Asked the spirit. Yes, very good, replied Nanabush. At that moment, he started a small fire and put on a small pot of rice, herbs, and meat to cook. Perhaps I will use a little of your food, Nanabush said, as he grabbed a handful of snow and put it into the pot. Soon the food was boiling rapidly. That smells very good, said the spirit of winter. May I have a taste when it's cooked? Oh, I don't think you'd like it, said Nanabush, and started to stir the food into the pot. Oop, I'm not clicking here. Perhaps if you turn it on. Oh, there we go. Finally, the hot rice, herbs, and meat were cooked, and Nanabush started to eat. Oh my, this is really delicious, he said as he smacked his lips and burped, making it sound very good indeed. All this while, the spirit of winter watched Nanabush eating. He just couldn't wait any longer. He asked again, how about a little taste? Oh, all right, grumbled Nanabush, and let the spirit of winter taste the food. This tastes good, said the giant. May I have some more? I don't know that I would like hot food. And he went on putting it into his big mouth. Eat all you want, said Nanabush. I can get more for myself later on. Nanabush was happy to see the spirit eat and didn't want him to stop. As the spirit, getting there, here we go. As the spirit ate the hot food, he began to melt. Suddenly, the spirit of winter felt what was happening, and he started to scream at Nanabush. I'm melting away, Nanabush. You have tricked me, but the food tastes so good I can't stop. And the spirit of winter went on stuffing himself with the hot food. The cold winds stopped, and the sun became warm for the first time. The snow and ice began to melt everywhere, and spring came to the land for the first time. You got the best of me, Nanabush, whispered the spirit of winter, but someday I'll be back to bring cold weather again. Nanabush hurried back to his people to explain why the weather was getting warmer. And from that day on, once every year, Nanabush would trick the spirit of winter into eating hot food. And then a few months later, the spirit of winter would return, refusing Nanabush's food until it was time for spring again. No longer was the land covered with ice and snow. The seasons had been created. So let's hope the spirit of winter eats some more soup today. And if I can get Lila, would you get the children's chalice for us? And Rachel will sing us out. And please join Audrey and I at the door, and Nicola.
Part of building a nurturing community includes sharing our joys and sorrows. Today we include these. There are no sorrows to read, just joys. So the first is from Pat Weber. It says, oh no, it is a concern. There's one concern. Dear First Unitarian Church of Hamilton congregants, some of you don't know me, and some of you, oh my goodness, thank you. All right, one more. And some of you have known me for a very long time, but First Unitarian Church has been my tribe, my community of friends, of contemplation. I invite you to relax. Close your eyes if you like and breathe deeply. Following our reading, there will be a moment of silence, followed by music. During the music, you are welcome to come up and light a candle of joy or concern. This morning's reading is from a little book of meditations called Consider the Lilies, written by Stephen Schick, and the reading is called Rich Earth. In earth rich with memory, love, and hope, spring is gathering seeds of justice. 1 in a million sinks roots deeply into the damp soil of ancient struggles and grows a giving tree. 1 in a million drives shoots upward through mulch of decaying leaves and wood to sway in stormy winds. 1 in a million grows strong enough to stand in the baking heat of cruel oppression, in the raging floods of wasted abundance. Outstretched and uplifted branches hold firm the wounded songbird long enough for wings to heal and risk flight again. In forests of glory, dead limbs and trunks fall into the rich earth where spring gathers seeds of justice. We'll have a moment of silence.
Our offering words today are written by Kayla Parker. We know that our financial contributions to this congregation come from sacrifice and hard work. We are so grateful for this and commit together to ensure the funds we gather collectively do a greater good for ourselves and our world than they could have done alone. May there be an offering to sustain and grow the life and mission of this congregation. May we give in love and in hope. today. During the pandemic lockdowns, I had a good look at my wardrobe. I had clothing that I seldom wore and more than I probably needed. I also had to recognize that I had clothing for my imaginary life. The just-in-case things I kept for events that never happen, like getting the Order of Canada. I wasn't alone. Lots of people used their COVID time to sort through clothing and other possessions, putting aside items that were no longer needed. When things opened up again, I took my unwanted clothing to the Eva Rothwell Center. It didn't seem like a big deal, but that small act was important. People often wonder what they can do to help others or help the planet. And today I hope to make a case for doing both, starting in your closet. The Eva Rothwell clothing store is used by a diverse range of people with a variety of needs. Clients register with the center and are allocated monthly points according to their household size. Clothing is priced in points, so clients can shop at no cost. Not only does the store help with a practical need for clothing, it's a win-win. 900 plus households benefit from the service, and donors feel better for diverting usable but unwanted clothing from going to waste. The store volunteers sort through the donations and keep clothing that is clean and in good condition. And the rule of thumb is to stock garments and shoes that they themselves would wear. Not everything sells, of course, so along with the discards, these excess items have to be dealt with. The Eva folks provide clothing to some other charity clothing centers in Hamilton. And depending on the fabric, some clothing can be repurposed for use as industrial cleaning cloths. But this is where a small community project links to a global social and environmental crisis. The volunteers at ER do their best to avoid creating waste, but the sad truth is that most clothing on this planet ends up thrown away. But of course, there is no away. According to the World Bank, of the total amount of textiles used for clothing, 87% ends up incinerated or in a landfill, quite often back in the global south where it was made. It's estimated that synthetic fabrics made from fossil fuels will take up to 200 years to biodegrade in the environment. This is part of the high price the world pays for fast fashion. Now, fast fashion describes clothing that is cheap, usually poorly made, and produced in large quantities in places like China, Bangladesh, Indonesia, Vietnam, Cambodia, India, and also Peru, Nicaragua, and so on. In the past 15 years, the number of clothing items produced in the world has doubled, while the use of that clothing has declined by 40%. And what I mean by that is that clothes are not used by the purchaser for as long as they used to be and are nowhere near worn out when they're discarded. Many will remember when a new line of clothing came out each season, and the previous season's clothing was put on sale. Today, some fast fashion companies produce as many as 52 new lines once a week. A 2019 survey in the UK revealed that British shoppers spent £21.7 million on clothes worn only once, including 11 million summer outfits that were used on a single holiday trip. The survey also said that clothing in the UK is worn 7 to 10 times on average before being discarded, and the figures wouldn't be much different for Canada. As a longtime thrift shopper, I can tell you that many items of clothing in secondhand stores were never worn and still have tags on them. The whole fast fashion situation crept up on us. Doreen and I both worked in the clothing sector back in the 70s. She had like big jobs in wholesale and production in Montreal and Toronto. I worked in the lingerie and foundation department at Eaton's in Sudbury. But we both sold garments that were, we both worked for Canadian companies, and we sold garments that were made in Canada substantially, but by the 70s, some could have been made from imported textiles. Of course, there was always imported clothing back then, mostly higher-end things like clothing from Italy or woolens from the UK. Some of our clothing came from the US, and we were asked to look for the union label, you may recall. But it was a time of change in the Canadian fashion industry, and baby boomers were moving into the work world and out of blue jeans. And some might recall those days when women's clothing came in sizes, including 11, 13, and 15, and one size generally fit you. Beginning in the 1980s, the price of clothing began to drop. And I remember this clearly, that it no longer made sense for me to make some of my clothing as I used to. Globalization meant that most of the Canadian garment industry moved to countries where cost of production was less because workers were poorly paid and labor and environmental laws were weak. Then in the 90s, we witnessed a major shift from consumption to consumerism. Writer Annie Leonard explained that consumption means acquiring and using goods and services to meet one's practical needs. Consumerism is the particular relationship to consumption in which we seek to meet our emotional and social needs through shopping and buying new stuff. The problem is that the good feeling doesn't last, and there's always something new to buy. Understand, I'm not talking about the positive feeling when someone says, "That color looks good on you," or "You look really good in that." Consumerism is more like an addiction, fueled by much deeper needs. Marketing, the major tool of capitalism, has convinced many that they and their possessions are never enough. Easy access to credit, along with social media and especially now internet shopping, added fuel to the fire with repeated "you are less than" messaging and access to a quick fix. Fashion has become ultra-fast. One click and a new dress or jacket is yours. If you look at an item but don't buy it, the image will keep popping up on your screen, sometimes telling you it's on special now. Just click here. Fast fashion is always on special. Online shopping adds to waste because many people order multiple sizes of the same garment because you never know what size will fit. For some reason, they believe that the items they returned will be repackaged and sold again. Not likely. Modern shoppers buy much more clothing than our grandparents did, without questioning how or where it was made or who made it. Better not to know. But that naivete came to an end on April 24, 2013, when the multi-story Rana Plaza building in Dhaka, Bangladesh, collapsed, killing 1,138 garment workers and injuring 2,500 more, some maimed for life. They were mainly women, earning some of the lowest legal wages in the world. In the days leading up to the disaster, workers complained about large cracks in the structure, but were told they would lose a month. It's up to the local middle companies to deal with the messy in-country issues. These days, many clothing companies participate in programs to reassure consumers they don't have to feel guilty about buying their products. But we can't ignore or wish away the fact that the global fashion industry is the face of modern colonialism and a Western world addiction called consumerism. But wait, there's more. The textile and garment industry is also responsible for major climate and environmental damage. I'll summarize the key issues, and I'd be happy to provide any additional details for anyone who's interested. These industries generate approximately 8 to 10% of global carbon emissions, making it one of the biggest carbon-emitting sectors, ahead of international aviation and marine shipping combined. Most of this is generated during the production phase because the majority of fabrics used are made from fossil fuels, and energy in the global south comes from burning them. In addition, the manufacturing process is broken up, so a garment might be cut out in one country or location, assembled in another with zippers and buttons inserted in a third before being shipped to the West. A new study suggests that wealthy countries like Canada will have to reduce consumption of clothing by 60% in order to cut our share of fashion's carbon footprint and stay within a 1.5 degree increase in global temperature. Textile dyeing and finishing causes about 20% of the water pollution in the world. There are rivers in India and Indonesia and elsewhere that are effectively toxic sewers and a huge risk to local people and wildlife. When fossil fuel clothing is laundered, microplastic fibers are discharged into the environment, and that accounts for about 35% of microplastics in aquatic food chains. And the worst discharges come from the first 8 to 10 washings. Fast fashion consumes enough water annually to supply 5 million people, and it takes around 2,700 liters of water to produce one cotton t-shirt. Cotton is a huge consumer of water in the whole process. It's all a colossal mess, and like many complex global problems, we wonder what can be done. There are some efforts being taken, and notably, I found a lot of the European programs are ahead of us, I think. The EU has released a strategy for shifting the fashion industry toward greater sustainability, but it's up to the wealthy G20 countries to advocate for change, as we are the major consumers. The people that make the clothes can't afford to buy them. As usual, the impacts land on the most marginalized. Clearly, governments and companies have to make massive changes, but what can communities like our congregation and individuals do about these issues? And the simple answer, I'm afraid, is to stop buying new clothes and move toward a more circular clothing economy by recycling or repurposing as soon as possible. Now, I recognize for many here today, this seems like someone else's issue. I'm guessing that most of us don't spend our Saturdays checking out the latest stuff at H&M. At the same time, you might be concerned about family members who are caught up in the endless cycle of shopping, shopping to feel better about themselves, but they only feel worse and perhaps are indebted. Maybe a store card for new clothes is a regular gift for your family members. Everyone has a part to play, and you may well have knowledge and resources that would help someone else reduce their own overconsumption. So here's a starting point, and I'm going to ask the tech team to put up the graphic. So this image was created by a graphic designer and writer named Sarah Lazarovich. Some of you might know her work. And she wrote this book called A Bunch of Pretty Things I Did Not Buy, which is in the public library. She's a skilled artist, so it's just beautifully illustrated. Sarah's hierarchy of needs is a handy way to think about consumption of clothing or anything else. The idea is to reduce the impact of our choices by focusing on the lower levels, with buying new as a last resort. And a detailed list of actions for each of these levels will be published in the ACE this week. This is a picture of slow fashion. The key message and the thinking behind the first 5 levels is that most sustainable clothing is already in your closet or in someone else's. The very best thing you can do is shop in your closet, and Climate Action has lots of tips to help you do that, as well as moving along the garments or shoes that you no longer need. Careful laundering is important too, especially for clothing made of synthetics like polyester, acrylic, and nylon. Washing in cold water on gentle cycle and air drying is recommended to reduce microplastic discharge. Now, borrowing and swapping are ways to change up your wardrobe by interacting with family, friends, or your community. Renting is a variation of borrowing and a good way to get something to wear to a one-time event, like a prom or the Oscars. You never know. Clothing swaps are growing in popularity, and you may have been to them already. For many, shopping is a social experience, and hosting a clothing swap for friends can be quite fun. And I've also attended a couple that raise money for charity. We all put some money into the hat along with bringing some stuff to swap. Neighborhood Buy Nothing sites are another platform for exchanging clothing and building community. Thrifting or buying secondhand is more popular than ever, and we have private and nonprofit shops across the city. Sales of used clothing has increased by 27% in recent years. It will continue to grow with financial pressures being felt by many and awareness of the issues with fast fashion. It's a good way to support local business and help charities do their work. You can also find clothing at garage and rummage sales. Now, the make level is interesting because it involves creative talent and ingenuity. There are makers in Hamilton who repurpose used clothing and discarded fabrics into a variety of garments and other items. I bought a yoga cushion, for example, from a company that repurposes fabric. Now, you can see some examples out in the lobby today of repurposed clothing in the Afghan made of scarves and some other items. And I also have this lovely book made of repurposed materials and items made by a member of this congregation who chooses to remain anonymous because she's so talented. So consider this. Do you have just-in-case fabrics or a sewing machine you aren't using? Someone can put them to good use. You may also have knowledge to share about sewing, tailoring, knitting, or other skills. Quilters can recycle some clothing, depending on the fabric. I still have the world's ugliest quilt that my mother pieced together from material scraps from my grade 7 and 8 wardrobe. And I feel a little guilty about saying that after hearing Dolly Parton's Song of Gratitude. The quilt is warm, I'll give her that. Finally, buying new. It's sometimes unavoidable. Make the best choices you can within your budget. Look for clothing made locally or in Canada. Avoid fossil fuel fabrics, and buy something you really like and will wear for a long time. And I would add to be cautious about sustainability claims made by clothing companies. Do your research. Some are legitimately trying to produce sustainable products, but others, it's a little bit of greenwashing. Individual actions like buying electric appliances, giving up flying or meat, or buying an e-bike get lots of media coverage. But changing behavior to address the human and environmental costs of consumerism is a different sort of action. It involves one's sense of self-worth, the influencers around us, and of course, for younger people, those influencers are pretty strong. And our spiritual selves are also involved. People need self-awareness about the impacts of consumption and a supportive network to help shift to a more sustainable and circular economy. We'll need to create more resilient communities to weather the climate crisis and the economic disruption that will come with it. The clothing store at Eva Rothwell is a good example of that resilience. Consider donating or volunteering at the store and make a difference for that community. In the coming weeks, the Climate Action Team will be sharing some tools to help you identify the climate actions that not only inspire you, but are suited to your time, talent, or treasure. There's no escaping the climate crisis now. It's here, and adaptation has begun. If you are interested in learning more about fast fashion, there will be a list of books, videos, and websites in this week's ACE. And you can always send questions to climate@uuhamilton.ca. Thank you for your attention and your continued support for our congregation's efforts at the Eva Rothwell Center. Little confusion there. Our next hymn will be number 27 in the gray hymnal again, I am that great and fiery force. And this was written by the 11th century mystic Hildegard von Bingen. So if there's any Hildegard fans, this is one of her big songs.
Rise as you are able and willing.
I am that great and fiery force, sparkling in everything that lives, in shining of the river's course, in greening grass that glory gives. I shine in glitter on these seas, in burning sun, in moon and stars, in unseen wind, in verdant trees. I breathe within, both near and far. And where I breathe, there is no death, and meadows dark glow beauty's bright. I am in all the Spirit's breath, the thundered word falls me, I am life.
For the benediction, I have two readings. The first by Vanda Scarvelli. A rigid mind is very sure, but often wrong. A flexible mind is generally unsure, but often right. Thought for the week. And I have a prayer written by Tomo Hilbo, who is the Director of Communications at Midvale Lombard Theological School in Chicago. Spirit of life and love, grant us courage to be vulnerable, to know that we are often wrong, and wisdom to amend our mistakes and find new ways of being. May the grace of Spirit bless us with humility, for self-examination, and bravery for a lifetime of transformation. And Nora, our postlude is called Friend, written by Robert Wiles. Thank you, Nora.
Yes, to acknowledge Robert Wells, who lives in Shawville, Quebec, a friend of mine and a great songwriter. And he wrote this song a long time ago, measured in decades, I believe. Of course, I'm a lot younger than that. But. You were there when I thought I was alone, and now tonight I feel that way again. And you lent an ear and an understanding heart, and now tonight I really need a friend. I don't want to, but I need to use you as a crying post. So won't you lend your shoulder to me, please? True love seldom grows from friendship, But if I had my choice, you know, I'd fall in love with you. And you were there when I needed you, before and now tonight. I feel that way again. And you made me smile when I thought a smile would break my face tonight. I really need a friend. I don't want to, but I need to use you as a crying post. So won't you lend your shoulder to me, please? True love seldom grows from friendship, but if I had my choice, you know I'd fall in love with you. Thank you.
And Kelly, how long before we? No, it's actually, you can't follow that. Circle?
But noon to 1 is because we've also let people on Zoom know that it's from
Okay.
1 to 1.
All right, so we'll regather, those of you who wish to and are able to.